Hi, and thanks for joining me. I'm out on Ouse and Spitfire Bobber today, and we're off on a ride that'll take us on a little circuit, starting from South Yorkshire, up through the East Riding of Yorkshire, down into Lincolnshire, then back across to South Yorkshire. We're going to be following the River Ouse up to the Humber estuary, then south down the side of the Trent, passing through several small villages and hamlets that have grown up by the river. I'm starting the trip just north of Thorn on the A614 Selby Road. It's not a bad start to the day. The weather's fine just now and the forecast for a fine day, so should be good. There's a right turn just up here to take us over towards Moor Ends. As the name suggests, it's on the edge of the Thorn Moors, which is part of what's now known as Humberhead Peatland. This is a huge area made up of Thorn, Hatfield, Crowell and Goole moors. Originally, these were the wetlands that formed the Humberhead floodplain thousands of years ago. They've been worked for the peat throughout recorded history. Today, they cover an area of over 7,000 acres. That's just over 11 square miles. All this peat working over the centuries has had a damaging effect on the moors, but Natural England and Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust are doing restoration work on Thorn and Crowell moors now. It's a nature reserve now, with several points of access in the area, and it's well worth a visit. We're at Rawcliffe Bridge, and at the traffic lights we're going to cross over the Dutch River, which of course is the River Don, and then on a second bridge over the Ayr and Calder navigation. Both these waterways are heading over towards Goole Docks, where they eventually terminate. We're passing under the M62 here, which brings us into Rawcliffe, and we're going to turn right here and head over to Goole. We're back on the A614 now, and we'll follow that for a little way. We've just gone back over the M62 and we're going to turn right onto the A161 to bypass Goole town. There's some pretty heavy clouds forming up ahead by the looks of it. We're at Goole Docks now, and we're turning right to follow the A161. It takes us back over the twin bridges that cross the Ayr and Calder navigation and the River Don that we crossed at Rawcliffe Bridge. Is that Mark Marquez there? Can't be. He's not following somebody for a tow. Sorry about that, and it won't mean anything to you if you don't follow MotoGP. We're in old-Goldie now and starting to follow the River Ouse, which will be on our left for some miles. We'll stick with it as far as possible till it meets the Trent at the Humber estuary. This area is called Gould Fields, and it's the northwestern sector of the marshland. The high grass bank that you'll see to the left a lot of the time is the flood banking for the river. This is a lovely twisty road, and it's pretty quiet too. The first village we passed through on the riverside is Swinefleet. This is the war memorial in honour of the local men who died in the 2 world wars. Now, it's only a small village, but it's got 51 names inscribed on it. The A161 heads south from here down to Crowell, so we're turning left onto this little back lane that follows the river. We're coming into the village of Reedness, and there's several Grade 2 listed buildings here. Just on the left we've got Reedness Hall. That's a mid-18th century house. Here on the right we've got Reedness Manor House. That also dates from the late 1700s, but a bit later. You can see just how much below the top of the flood defences we are here. There's 4 villages along this stretch that sort of run into each other. We've just passed through Reedness, then we've got Little Reedness, and we're just approaching Whitgift. Just on the border between Little Reedness and Whitgift is this lovely old church. We'll stop and take a look. It's the church of Mary Magdalene, and it dates from 1304. It's a Grade 1 listed building. There was a previous church on the site from at least the 11th century, or it may have even been earlier. It's got a pretty unusual clock on the tower, because if you look carefully you'll see it hasn't got 12 o'clock at the top. It's actually got 13 in Roman numerals. Now the story goes that the guy who painted it had been in the pub which used to stand next door before he finished the job. The river's snaked a few hundred yards away from the road here, but just across the field you can see Whitgift Lighthouse. This was built in the late 19th century and it's still operational today, but it's a Grade 2 listed building. Ousefleet is the last village we pass through before we come to the Humber estuary. We've nearly gone as far as we can east on this road. The rivers Ouse and Trent meet up just ahead to form the Humber estuary. The land around this junction's an RSPB nature reserve called Blacktoft Sands, and this is the entrance on the left. Well worth a visit. The road turns south now, and we've got the River Trent over to the left. The next village we come to is Adlingfleet. This is recorded in the Domesday Book as Adalinga's Fluet. Prior to Vermeuden's land drainage, which we come across in a number of my videos, the River Don actually came by the village and entered the River Trent near here. It's a pretty little place, so we'll take a short detour around the back lane just to have a look. This is All Saints Church, and it dates from the 13th century, though it does have earlier 12th century bits built into it. It's also a Commonwealth War grave site, because here we've got the grave of a First World War soldier who died in 1917. We've got two villages side by side now, Fockerby first, then Garthorpe. In the 1700s, two notable highwaymen operated in this area. The first was a bloke called Ned Mandrell. It's thought that following his capture and execution, he was buried in the village. The other was one Snowden Dunhill, who actually came from near Howden. He was caught and sentenced to transportation to Australia, where it's thought he died. We've been travelling down Shore Road, and it bends sharp right just here. If we carried straight on though down that track for another few hundred yards, we'd be at the bank of the River Trent. We'd also be at the site of the old ferry dock. So before the Cadeby Bridge was built in 1916, there was a ferry boat from here across to Burton upon Stather. If you look at the clouds now, you can tell what's going to happen, and I don't have my waterproofs with me. We're already getting a few drops, so I'll just give you a quick wipe. The flood bank's closing in on the left now as the Trent swings over to meet the road, and we'll be right beside that for a while. We're joining the B1392 here that comes over from Eastoft. The rain's getting heavier now and I'm getting pretty wet. I love this bike, but the almost total lack of weather protection is really demonstrating itself now. Tiny mudguards, well, you can't really call them mudguards, can you? They look great on a bobber, but well, I suppose I must remember to carry me waterproofs and just disregard the weather forecast. Regardless, I was still enjoying it and actually found it quite funny at the time. This is Pauper's Drain we're crossing, and it's one of the larger drainage cuts that feed into the Trent. It goes in through a sluice gate. Amcot's next, which is a pretty small village, and it sits straight across the River Trent from Flixborough. Now, some of you may remember Flixborough from the disaster of 1974, when there was a huge explosion at a chemical plant producing caprolactam. 28 people were killed and 36 others injured in the blast that devastated the site. A number of buildings here in Amcot were badly damaged by the blast, even though it's over a quarter of a mile away. That's the church of St Mark's on the left. It's a Grade 2 listed building dating from 1853, but it replaced a much earlier building. Just when you think you can't get any wetter, someone disagrees. Thanks a lot, mate. Right, the rain's just about stopped now and the sky's brightening a bit as we reach Cadeby. The name first appears in 1185, where it's recorded as Kettyby in the records of the Templars of England. It means Ketty's by, Ketty being an old Danish name, and by is the old Scandinavian word for a village or homestead. As we come out of Cadeby, we've joined the A18 from Scunthorpe to Doncaster, just to the west side of the King George V bridge. I've covered this old lifting bridge in earlier videos, but here's a little reminder of this impressive structure. We're heading back along the A18 now towards Thorn, where we actually started this trip. Turned out to be a bit wet for a while there, and I'm soaked, but at least it's not cold, so hopefully I'll have dried out a bit by the time I get back. Still, enjoyed the ride regardless, and just goes to show you cannot go by the weather forecasts. Right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Hope you've enjoyed this ramble. Please leave a like, if in fact you did, and a comment, so I always try to answer them. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button if you want to see more of my ramblings. Well, hope to catch you on the next one, and cheers for now.